Dear students, welcome to this EDUSAT English Teleteaching program. Today we are going to discuss one of the very important chapters of your grammar book, that is noun clauses. In chapter 2 of your grammar book, we have discussed what is a sentence, types of sentences and structure of a sentence. And in that chapter, we have also discussed sentences can be categorized under three heads: simple sentences, compound sentences and complex sentences. So, in complex sentences, we have also discussed we have different types of clauses. We have noun clauses, we have relative clauses, we have adverb clauses, and today our focus will be on noun clauses. So, we will discuss what is a noun clause and how they are used in the sentences and what functions do they perform in the sentences. And before going to discuss all these things, let us discuss grammar from a very important paragraph, important passage about very popular leader, nationalist and a great patriot, Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. Let us go to the passage and read the passage and we will discuss grammar. So, dear students, you see, Subhash Chandra Bose was an Indian nationalist. His attempt during World War II to free India of British rule with the help of Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan was a matter of discussion throughout the world. Everybody knows that Subhash Chandra Bose was one of the greatest patriots of our country. We feel proud of this great leader because he was born in Cuttack on 23rd January 1897, right. So, this celebrated freedom fighter who won the title Netaji in the year 1942 in Germany by the Indian soldiers of the Azad Hind Fauj became a hero in India due to his aggressive patriotism. He wrote the book Azad Hind and it became very famous. It is a fact that he died on 18th August 1945. How he died has also been a mystery for us. So, this is all about Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. You know, he is one of the greatest freedom fighters and one of the famous patriots of our country, and we are very much proud of him because he was born in our state in Odisha. Let us see the grammar item clauses. This passage will help you to remind of your previous discussion in chapter 2, right. Look at the passage and mark the red colored parts of the sentences, right. So, Subhash Chandra Bose was an Indian nationalist. His attempt during World War II to free India of British rule with the help of Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan was a matter of discussion throughout the world. So, now you see the first sentence, Subhash Chandra Bose was an Indian nationalist. This is a very simple sentence because there is only one verb was, right. And now you come to the second sentence. His attempt during World War II to free India of British rule with the help of Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan was a matter of discussion throughout the world during that period. So, this part, to free India of British rule with the help of Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan, this part, this is also a clause, right, and this is a non-finite clause. Although there is not so much ideas given in your textbook, you just see to infinitive when we start a clause, a part in the sentence using to plus verb or ing verb, gerund type of verb, then that is also a clause and that clause is called non-finite clause. In sentence number 1, Subhash Chandra Bose was an Indian nationalist. The verb was is only single verb and the single verb is itself finite verb. So, to free India here, free is a verb and to free is a non-finite form in the form of to plus infinitive, and this is also a clause. So, that is why the second sentence is also a complex sentence, but you will know a lot about it later, right, but not in this class, right. Let us go to the third sentence. Everybody knows that Subhash Chandra Bose was one of the greatest patriots of our country. Now, you see, everybody knows, this is one part. What? Now, that Subhash Chandra Bose was one of the greatest patriots of our country. This part beginning from that till the end of the sentence, this is a that clause, that part, that clause, and that is why this sentence is called a complex sentence, and this that clause is also a noun clause, because this part functions as a noun. Suppose I say everybody knows this, everybody knows this story, everybody knows it, everybody knows about Subhash Chandra Bose. So, know is a verb which requires an object, and here this noun functions as object, and we will discuss after this. You just know that part, this is a clause and this is a noun clause, it functions like a noun. We will discuss all these things clearly, right. So, now come to the last sentence of this paragraph. We feel proud of this great leader, right. Then, because he was born in Cuttack on 23rd January 1897. So, my dear children, this red colored part beginning from because, right, this is also a clause, and you will know all about it when you will be taught adverb clauses. When we will discuss adverb clauses, or in adverb clauses you can know this is a clause beginning with because, and this is a clause, adverb clause of reason. So, what is the reason? We feel proud of this great leader. What is the reason behind it? Because he was born in our state, he was born in Cuttack, right. Okay. Let us go to the next part of this passage. This celebrated freedom fighter who won the title Netaji in 1942 in Germany by the Indian soldiers of the Azad Hind Fauj became a hero in India due to his aggressive patriotism. So, he was very aggressive leader. He was always getting angry with the British rulers, right. So, he wanted to free India using force, right, fighting against them. So, this celebrated freedom fighter, you just see, then the red colored part begins with the pronoun, relative pronoun WH, word who, right, and again this sentence, the last part, became a hero. That means, this celebrated freedom fighter became a hero in India due to his aggressive patriotism. This is the main part, and the middle part is who earned, who won the title Netaji, who got the title Netaji, who gained the title Netaji in 1942 in Germany by the Indian soldiers of the Azad. This part is a clause, and this begins with the WH word. This is also one type of relative clause, you will know after this, right, we will discuss. So, this is a clause and this is also a complex sentence. Now, come to the last part. He wrote the book Azad Hind and it became very famous. Now, you see, he wrote the book Azad Hind. Subhash Chandra Bose wrote many books. Azad Hind is one of the famous books, and it was such a famous book that he became very famous, very popular for this book, right. So, in this sentence there are two clauses, and the clauses are combined by the help of the conjunction and, coordinating conjunction, you know, and what like this, right. So, this is a compound sentence, it has two clauses. The first part is the main clause and the second part is the coordinate clause, right. This is not subordinate clause, this is coordinate clause, because these two clauses they have finite verbs. He wrote the book, this is an independent part. It became very famous, the book became very famous, this is also independent sentence, they can stand on their own. So, my dear students, when in a sentence the clauses they can stand on their own, they do not depend on others, they are finite clauses, they are independent clauses, and when they are combined by the conjunctions, coordinating conjunctions like and but, they are, the sentence is called a compound sentence. This is compound sentence, This is just a recap of your previous discussion, what was taught to you in chapter 2, right. So, now come to the next sentence. It is a fact that he died on 18th August 1945. So, it is a fact, this is the main part, that again that clause begins, right. So, what is the fact? That this is also one type of clause and this is a noun clause, and we can know how you can identify the noun clauses. And the last sentence, how he died, has also been a mystery for us. So, my dear students, how he died, the first part begins with a WH word, how he died, and this is the subject part, and has also been, that means it has also been a mystery for us. Gote rahasya hoiki rahi jaichi tanga mrityu, tanga death, his death has become a mystery for every Indian, even all the people, they do not believe what happened to him, right. So, this is all about Subhash Chandra Bose, and at the time of knowing grammar, we should also know some general knowledge, and you can know a lot of things, you can read about Subhash Chandra Bose. Let us go to discuss focusing on this noun phrase, right. So, now we discussed, this is the recap, sentence, one clause and more than one clause. So, we have two types of sentence, sentence can be divided under two heads, one clause sentence, more than one clause. One clause means simple sentence, just like Subhash Chandra Bose was a great Indian nationalist or great patriots, one of the greatest patriots of India. It is very simple sentence, one clause, one finite verb. More than one clause, we have two types of sentence. If two or more independent clauses are there joined by the coordinator, then compound sentence. If one main clause and we have some subordinate clauses or one subordinate clause, then the sentence is complex sentence, right. So, dear children, you just see sentence can be structured as simple sentence, compound sentence, complex sentence. A simple sentence has one clause, that is independent. A compound sentence has two or more independent clauses, right, and a complex sentence contains one main clause and one or more subordinate clauses, right. So, this is what we have already discussed, right. Let us go to the next part. Now, you see I have given three examples, right. Valmiki, who wrote the Ramayana in Sanskrit, was a great saint, right. Number 2, Rabindranath Tagore spent most of his life where Vishwabharati University was set up. Number 3, everybody knows that the Azad Hind is one of the most popular books of Subhash Chandra Bose, what we have discussed. So, in the first sentence you see Valmiki, who wrote the Ramayana in Sanskrit, was a great saint. So, Valmiki was a great saint, and some more things we can know something more about Valmiki by reading the middle part, who wrote the Ramayana in Sanskrit. That means, Valmiki was a great saint and he wrote the Ramayana in Sanskrit. So, the middle part is a relative clause, that means, it describes Valmiki who wrote the Ramayana in Sanskrit. Number 2, Rabindranath Tagore spent most of his time where Vishwabharati University was set up. So, Rabindranath Tagore spent most of his time here, where in or at Vishwabharati University. So, this is where Vishwabharati University was set up, this is adverb clause, this talks about the place. And third sentence, everybody knows that the Azad Hind is one of the most popular books of Subhash Chandra Bose. So, I have already told you, we have discussed, know is a verb, know requires an object, you know something, I know something, I know a story, right. So, everybody knows this story and everybody knows that the Azad Hind is one of the most popular books of Subhash Chandra Bose. So, my dear students, you just see, I am just putting it on the board, so that you will be very clear about noun clause, right. So, when I write everybody knows this, everybody knows the book, right, and if I write, everybody knows that this book is very popular. So, dear students, you see, everybody knows the book. Here, know is a verb, and this is the verb, and this is finite verb, and this is the object of the sentence, and this object is in the form of a noun phrase, right. And here this same verb is used, and this finite verb, and here that this book is very popular. Here this part is also just like this. This also functions like object, and this is a clause beginning with that relative pronoun, and this functions, or this is used in place of the noun phrase, and this is called noun clause. So, here you just see the form of the clause, it begins with that, and its function is just like a noun, and its function is object. So, this is what we say noun clause. So, my dear students, we will again discuss what are the types of noun clauses, how we can identify the noun clauses, and what function do they do inside the sentence. So, dear children, we discussed noun clause. You just look at the diagram. Complex sentences, one clause plus one or more subordinate clauses, right, and these subordinate clauses may be noun clauses, may be relative clauses, or adverb clauses, as we have already discussed, right. Now, you see, some subordinate clauses are called noun clauses because they work like nouns in the sentence. For example, study the following sentences, right. You just look at the examples, then we will be very much clear about the noun clauses. Number 1 sentence, Sonali remembers that it was a Friday, right. Number 2, Sonali remembers her brother's birthday. Number 3, Sonali remembers it, it is remembers it. So, in these 3 sentences, as I have already discussed, putting the examples on the whiteboard, you can also look at these examples. In sentence number 1, Sonali remembers that it was a Friday. So, remembers what? That it was a Friday. So, that clause, this part is a clause. Number 2, Sonali remembers her brother's birthday. The remembers, the same verb is used here, and her brother's birthday, we can replace the clause by using this phrase. So, her brother's birthday, this part is a phrase, right. And in the third sentence, Sonali remembers it. So, it is a what? It is a pronoun. So, my dear students, now you see, remember is a verb, it requires a noun, and that functions like object. Remembers what? Remembers it, remembers her birthday, remembers her brother's birthday, and remembers that it was a Friday. So, when a clause is used in place of a noun and it functions like a noun or noun phrase, it is called a noun clause. We have already discussed, right. Now, you see, everybody knows that Azad Hind is one of the most popular books of Subhash Chandra Bose, we have discussed. People know why the Ramayana is so popular in the world. So, now you look at these 2 sentences. In sentence 1, the clause begins with that. In sentence 2, in the black colored box, you just see the sentence begins, the clause begins with why, relative pronoun, right. And both the clauses, they are used for the same verb no. So, no verb, you just see, no verb requires an object. It may come in the form of a that clause, it may come in the form of a WH clause, right, but both the clauses are noun clauses. So, here that Azad Hind is one of the most popular books of Subhash Chandra Bose is a noun clause, and in the second sentence the clause why the Ramayana is so popular in the world is also the noun clause. Now, you mark the italicized noun clauses in the following sentences. Ashok said that Piku's answer was right. Number 2, whether Kufi can write like his brother is not clear. Number 3, it is difficult to say who will teach them English. Number 4, how can they score better in English is a great challenge for the family. So, Ashok said that Piku's answer was right, said that. So, beginning from that the last part, the italicized part is a noun clause. And in the sentence number 2, whether Kupi can write like his brother, this green colored part, the beginning part beginning with the WH word whether, that is also a noun clause. And here this is the subject of the sentence, and in the first sentence that is the object of the sentence. In the third sentence it is difficult to say, right, who will teach them English. So, say it is difficult to say who will teach them English, beginning from who, that is also a clause and that is a noun clause. And in the fourth sentence, how can they score better in English is a great challenge. So, my dear students, now you see, look at the clauses. The clauses they begin with the words like that, whether, who, how, these are all noun clauses and they function like nouns, and they are in form of, or they begin with the relative pronouns and WH words, right. So, my dear students, now you look at the sentences. Noun clauses usually begin with that, if or whether or WH words. So, this is all about the form. When you look at the sentence, if you find any part beginning with that or if or whether or with a WH word, you can think about the clauses, and if they function like nouns, if they are used in place of nouns, they are noun clauses, right. So, the clauses which are used or which begin with the that relative pronoun, they are called that clauses, and the clauses which begin with WH words, they are known as WH clauses, and they occupy these clauses, they occupy the noun phrases, and they also do the work of noun or nouns or noun phrases in the sentences, right. Now, you see, the noun clauses can have several functions in the sentences. You read the following sentences and mark the functions of noun phrases. So, my dear children, we have 5 sentences here, right. In these 5 sentences, we have 5 different functions of the noun clauses, and they are also used in different forms, right. So, you just see number 1 sentence, what Ashutosh said, the clause what Ashutosh, the underlined part is the clause, and that is that occupy the subject part in the sentence, and that begins with the WH word what. In the sentence number 2, they may think that Ashutosh is a liar, thus Ashutosh is a liar, this part begins with that, and this is a that clause. So, first clause in number 1 sentence is a WH clause, in the second sentence the clause is a that clause, and in the third sentence the problem for him was how he could convince people about the fact. The clause, underlined clause, actually that is that begins with how. So, his mother paid no attention to what his friends said. What his friends said, this is again the finishing part, the that completes the sentence, and that is related to the preposition to, right. And in sentence number 5, the news that my daughter danced beautifully has been highlighted on the front page of the Indian Press. So, the news, what is the news? That my, this is apposition. So, in sentence number 1, subject, in sentence number 2, that is object, think what, in sentence number 3, that is just like your we can say subject verb plus object, subject verb plus complement. So, this is one type of complement. So, the problem for him was what, that completes the sentence, how he could convince people. So, subject object complement in fourth sentence to what his friend said, that is the object to the preposition to, and in the fifth sentence the news. What is the news? The news and that my daughter danced beautifully, same thing, that is the opposition to the noun phrase. So, these are different functions. We will discuss all these things in the next session clearly, and let us do some exercises, one or two exercises which are there in the textbook. So, that you will be very much clear about it. Look what, mention whether the following expressions are phrases, clauses or sentences. So, 1, where have you been? 2, a stitch in time. 3, all the king's horses, like a diamond in the sky. 5, pussy in the wall. 6, a nice fairy story. 7, and Jill came tumbling after. 8, to fetch a pail of water. 9, under the queen's chair. 10, Humpty Dumpty sat on a well. Number 11, the clock struck 1. Number 12, off the hill. Number 13, who pulled her out. Number 14, after sealing the letter. Number 15, Jack fell down. So, my dear children, you look at the answers. Where have you been? This is the sentence. A stitch in time, this is a phrase, not a sentence, there is no verb. All the king's horses, this is also a noun phrase, not a sentence. Like a diamond in the sky, this is also a sentence, prepositional sentence, a phrase. This is not a sentence, this is a phrase. Pussy in the wall, this is also a phrase, not a sentence, there is no verb. A nice fairy story, this is also a phrase, and Jill came tumbling after, this is a phrase. To fetch pail of water, this is also a phrase. Under the queen's chair, phrase, there is no verb, this is not a sentence. Humpty Dumpty sat on the wall, this is a sentence. The clock struck 1, this is also a sentence, because there is a verb struck. Off the hill, phrase. Who pulled her out, this is a sentence. So, after sealing the letter, this is also we can say it is a clause. Jack fell down, this is a sentence. So, if you have a finite verb, you can say this is a sentence. If you do not have a finite verb, you can say, or if you have a phrase, a noun phrase or a prepositional phrase, then you can say this is a phrase. So, my dear students, I think you understand what is a clause, what is a phrase, what is a sentence, and what is compound, simple and complex sentences are, and what are different types of clauses, and you can usually identify what is a noun clause. In the next class, we will discuss clearly about the functions of noun clauses in different forms. So, the time is going to be over, and let us say goodbye. Thank you.